Hey guys, it's Jodi here from Honeysuckle Hill Bee-stro, and we're at another cooking video. And our guest cook today is Indiana Senator Jon Ford. Jon, you're actually my senator.
I am.
And the first time I ever laid eyes on you, never met you, you came for breakfast.
That's right. You invited me over when I was thinking about running, and
yeah,
we had a good conversation.
Yeah. I just like to meet people over food.
That's
what about
great.
you?
Yeah, the same way. I always love to break bread.
Yeah. And I think that it breaks down barriers too.
I agree. You learn a lot about a person
Yeah.
having a meal with them.
Yeah. You find out if they chew with their mouth open and all that kind of stuff.
Or if they know how to cut.
Yeah, that's true. You know what? Whenever Andy and I started dating, I didn't know how to cut because I grew up. Our family wasn't like wealthy or anything. We didn't have like steak or anything like that. So when we first started dating, Andy had to cut my meat for me.
I did not know that.
there you go. Little Jodi trivia for your day. So anyway, so Jon, we're going to be cooking Minnesota hot dish. And that's a family recipe, right?
Yes.
So tell me the origin, where it came from, all that good
So
stuff.
this is a dish that my grandmother used to make in rural Minnesota. I'd spend my summers there on their house in town or on the farm, and this is just a staple in Minnesota. You know, that's what they call it, Minnesota hot dish.
Oh,
Where
wow.
some of us here in Indiana might call it a casserole.
Mm-hmm.
Up there, they call it a hot dish, and it was just something that was always around in our family.
So did they always call, like, were all casseroles called hot dishes, or?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of a Minnesota Norwegian thing, I think.
Yeah. So this summer we were talking. Your mom passed away this year.
Yes.
And you were talking about going where her remains are buried,
Mm-hmm.
and just going back and seeing the old places where you would spend summers. And that was really interesting to me because you grew up in Washington, D.C. area, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So just tell people a little bit about your life.
Yeah, so in the summers I'd spend, in rural Minnesota. It was, roughly 2.5 hours from any interstate on small county roads in a town of 850 people.
Oh, wow.
A lot of dirt roads in this town, not a lot of wealth, and just great people. It was one of these towns that at lunch they blew the whistle so everyone would go home to eat lunch, and then they would blow it again at 6 o'clock for dinner.
Oh,
So,
wow, that's so cool.
Just got to roam around the town and fish and hunt and ride bicycles, but then always go home for a great lunch with grandma and grandpa and great dinner.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Sounds like a really simple time. So, okay, so let's talk a little bit. You grew up in the Washington, D.C. area, and you were actually adopted, too.
Yes, I was born into the foster care system and adopted around the age of 2.
Okay, all right. And so you kind of foster care is kind of like your niche and your passion in the state Senate. So tell about that. Was that what you were thinking it would be whenever you were first elected?
Yeah, I mean, foster care and adoption has always been talked about in my family. So it's not anything that's out of the ordinary. My wife is a pediatric therapist, so we're always around children that way, and many of them are foster children.
Mm-hmm.
But once I got into the Senate and really got to see some of the issues we're having with drug addiction and families, foster care really just stood out to me.
Yeah.
And part of my district includes Vigo County, and they have the second highest poverty rate. 1 in 4 kids suffer neglect. So the numbers in my district really show that foster care and children are something that we need to focus on.
Yeah. So, okay, one of the things that we talked about a little bit earlier too is just like the family unit and the family breakdown. And I feel like, and tell me if you feel the same way, if not, I'll still like you.
Yeah.
But anyway, I feel like family dinner is a big deal for keeping that family unit together and just those family values, just sitting down and having a meal together.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I feel it's extremely important to the families that you take time and set it aside. When I was growing up, we would eat dinner. It wasn't necessarily at 6 o'clock because of activities, but we ate a meal together almost every night.
Yeah.
And I think just nowadays that is just not, with all the activities kids are in and parents are in. I think it's just something that's been lost.
Yeah, I agree. So that's kind of, the feel of the bistro. We want to feel like Sunday dinner at grandma's house. And and so part of that is that whole family values thing. That's kind of an underlier, you know, with that. Because like I said earlier, I think that food is such a catalyst for bringing people together. So, and I love that you're sharing a family recipe, because I feel like all the best dishes have a memory associated with them.
Yeah, I agree in it. You know, some of these family dishes and the family meals really have helped me become the person I am today, because while I was helping my grandmother make this dish as a child, I learned a lot. You know, not just about cooking, but about our heritage, about where we came from, what's right or wrong, and, you know, great conversations over making the dish was, I think it's helped me a lot.
That's awesome. So much time do you spend in the kitchen cooking with like your boys? Because you have twins that are seniors this year.
Yeah, twins that are seniors. Really with them, it's really a lot of grilling in the summertime. You know, and you know, those kind of things, and some casseroles. We make a lot of, you know, casseroles, and during the holidays, hams and things like that. And they'll bake a little bit, you know, with my wife, and I'll be in the room, but that's really the extent of what we do.
That's awesome. So, go ahead and join us in the kitchen for some Minnesota. So, John, this is Minnesota hot dish. So, I read through the recipe. I've got the celery, which is 2 cups of celery already chopped. I've got which here, let me show. John, you can be the other Vanna. This is carrots, and that's 3/4 of a cup of carrots chopped. But I left something fun for you to do.
Great.
So you get to do the onion. I want to see if it makes you cry. And then you're going to do the pepper. And you only need 1/4 cup of those. And we're going to do those in a minute. While John's doing that, we need 2 cups of peeled and sliced potatoes. So I'm going to be doing this while John's doing his little deal with the Ninja. So John, you've never used a Ninja before. Okay, I just need to tell you this, that Andy did have to have surgery after an incident with the Ninja one time.
Well, I appreciate that warning. Hopefully we won't have that happen today.
Yeah, that's true. Well, it was just, he was taking it out of the box and a piece fell out and cut him, so he had to have surgery on his hand. So anyway, that was that story. So
Okay,
we should be all safe and secure. Okay, so let's see. All right, we should be, turn it on, and then you have all these different options to choose from. I would go medium, and it doesn't take very long at all. So then you can just throw that in our skillet here. So what's your favorite thing to make?
You know, I like to make some Asian dishes, some stir fry and noodle dishes. Then on the grill, like to do a lot of portobello mushrooms and different types of pork.
You know, you've never invited us over for dinner. Is there a reason for that? You not like us that much?
No, just a timing thing, I think.
All right. Well, we're available until April 3rd.
We'll have to
just
work
so
on
you
that.
know. Okay, I'm thinking 2 potatoes are going to be darn close to the 2 cups that we need for this recipe. So, and then if you want to go ahead and throw in the celery and the carrots. And just so you know, folks, that I don't know how to say this, but you can buy a mixture of, there's a name for it, and the name is French, and I don't know how to say it. But there is, in your frozen section at the grocery store, a mixture of celery, carrots, and onions that you can buy, so you don't even have to mess with chopping if you don't want to. And then you can always buy, in your frozen section, some green pepper too, so that you can add. Okay, John, let's carry this over to the cooktop. Okay, so the recipe says it needs 2 tablespoons of butter, so we'll throw that in. And it says it needs 1 cup of water. So we're gonna let that cook just a little bit, and while that's cooking down, it says it's just until the vegetables get tender. So actually, we're gonna put a good lid on that. We'll keep an eye on that for a little bit. But whenever that comes out, we're gonna be adding some other ingredients too. But in the meantime, we could go ahead and start with the chow mein noodles. So here's our 9x13 pan. And the recipe calls for half of the chow mein to go in the bottom. And then we'll be reserving the other half to go on top. All right, so John, now that we're done getting our facials from this steam, we'll go ahead and see if those potatoes are feeling tender, which I'm thinking they are.
Yep, everything looks great.
Okay, so now we're gonna add in the 1 pound of ground beef that I had cooked earlier. And we're gonna add in, I'm gonna let you do this. This is 2 cans of creamy mushroom soup.
Great.
So this just seems like a really good family night hearty meal.
Yeah, it's a great simple dish and a nice cold winter day to pull out of the oven and watch some football or basketball.
Nice.
With the family.
So do you, what would you serve with this? And we'll just stir that together.
Probably a nice salad with it, but it's kind of got all the ingredients of, your potatoes and your meat and vegetables all combined into one. But probably just a little bit of salad and...
Okay. And then we'll be putting the mixture on top of the chow mein noodles, the half can chow mein noodles. You know what? Okay, so chow mein noodles. You like cooking like Oriental type food. Do you use chow mein noodles very much? I mean, are chow mein noodles like a staple in the Ford pantry?
No, really just for this kind of dish. We don't, and sometimes we make a Christmas cookie out of them.
Oh, really? Okay.
With peanut butter and caramel, but no, we really just use it for this dish.
Right. Let's just spoon that in to begin with, and then we may need to dump the whole skillet. But because whenever I was growing up, we only had one dish that we made using chow mein noodles too. So you knew whenever Mom brought that home from the grocery store that we were going to be having that one dish.
Yeah, it was the same for us growing up.
Okay.
We didn't use them too much.
Now, in the bistro, I always say, hey, will you be my spotter? Make sure I don't overflow there the dish.
Great.
Okay. This over to the side. Okay, then we're gonna finish off the chow mein noodles on top. I always like chow mein noodles because I thought that they were nice little. It's even though they get cooked, there's still a little bit of a crunch to them. I think that they're fun. Okay, and then we got 1 cup of shredded cheddar. I'd like to put that on top. And then we've already got our oven preheated to 350 degrees. And so we're going to put this in for about 20 minutes. And then we get to try Minnesota hot dish.